Quantum Consciousness Conversations in the Metaverse, taking the next quantum leap, brought to you by PureEsperanza NFP. Welcome to Quantum Consciousness Conversations, a 4-part series designed to spark creative curiosity, raise consciousness, and find greater connections with topics we dare to discuss. We are PureEsperanza NFP, a nonprofit dedicated to consciousness and well-being. You can learn more about us in our description links below. I am Esperanza Smith, energy medicine practitioner, holistic educator, and founder of PureEsperanza, joined here in the metaverse in our conference room at our roundtable with our esteemed global guest panel, all agents of change and experts in their own rights. A warm welcome to each of you. Let's begin by going around the table and introducing yourselves. To my left, Bill Protzman.
Hello, everyone. Bill Protzman here from sunny San Diego, California, in the southwestern United States. I am the founder and CEO of Musomorphic, and I function in the world as a bridge builder and professional alchemist.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bill. Next, Elizabeth Terry.
Hi, everybody, and I'm coming to you this day from Kingston, Jamaica. I am a trainer and master coach of neuro-linguistic programming. I also am a positive intelligence coach and entrepreneur. Metaphysician, I consider myself a light worker, helping to change minds and change lives.
Thank you so much. Next, Dr. Keryn Johnson.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Esperanza. I'm based here in Wellington, New Zealand. I'm a quantum biologist and regenerative medicine scientist. And I make a product from Manuka honey, an apitherapy, which facilitates cognitive function. Thank you.
Thank you, Keryn. Next, Sharon LaFlamme.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sharon LaFlamme here from the USA, right in the metaverse. And my passion to heal myself and others has been my bridge to the divine from the human. And those desires to seek knowledge and truth have brought me to so many modalities that I use in my practices of energy healing and divine light.
Thank you so much, Sharon. And completing our Quantum Consciousness Conversations Roundtable, Crystal C. Sun.
Hey everyone, I'm Crystal C. Anthony, also known as Crystal Sun. I'm a 432 Hertz singer, songwriter, healing frequency producer, and also founder of Level Up Your Frequency. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you all so much. Okay, so let's jump right in to our quantum consciousness series here. So we're going to begin this conversation with our series' first topic, consciousness, expansion, and life after death. So let's take it to the next quantum level. Next slide. We'll start with these questions here. First question, and we'll just go right around the round table for everybody to have an opportunity to share their perspective. First question, is consciousness infinite and eternal life itself? We'll start with Bill.
So that's kind of interesting because if you're talking in the quantum field, life as we know it disappears, and all there is this quantum wave or a weave, depending upon the perspective. The mathematicians that I follow love to say that it's the weave that's influenced what we see here as organic life. So I would have to answer this question yes, because even though we can't define consciousness, there is something out there, quantum entanglement, whatever it is, that defines how all the stuff in the universe moves. And part of that stuff have been here since the very first moment, and that would be eternal as far as I can tell. even though our organic life may not be eternal.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bill. We'll hear from you, Liz.
Yeah, this is a really interesting question, Esperanza. I mean, unless we have had our first-hand experience, I mean, I listen to a lot of near-death experiences. Unless we have truly had something like that, then it's a matter of our perspective and how open we are to the kinds of new discoveries that scientists and persons who are into spiritual development have been discovering, especially over the past few decades. I would say from my perspective, just simply because of what I have heard, what I have read, I would say yes, it makes sense to me that consciousness, being energy, is infinite and eternal. I think of our own consciousness from a sort of more organic perspective. We have conscious minds, which of course is limited in our understanding, and then we have access to another 93% of our minds, which is unconscious, and that my understanding is that it taps into something even bigger than our individual consciousness. So I see consciousness as being very wrapped up in awareness, and really it's a question of how much we are able to expand our minds beyond our individual awareness into the greater whole of consciousness. So I sort of mixed up in the idea of source, of God, being that whole, and therefore when we depart this life organically, then we merge into the wholeness of the greater consciousness. So that's my understanding.
Thank you so much, Liz. Now we'll hear from you, Keryn.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. The science of consciousness, is a very challenging area. I've made some inroads in identifying some quantum biological features of our neurotransmitter function and the role that hydrogen plays in creating unstable atoms in the ring systems. It's a very scientific perspective. How does that relate to the aspects of, is consciousness infinite? From my own perspective, and that's what I can only provide really, is that I've seen a radioactive atom decay, which then provided significant information of future events in my life. You could say that was kind of like a near-death experience, and that showed me that our conscious mind is actually very slow, it's delayed, and it's living in the past, where the unconscious part of ourselves has access to both past and future. We consider the conscious mind to be the now, but really what it's showing is that the unconscious atomic isotope physics system is really what's providing us with the underlying processes responsible for giving us light within the mind. So I connect consciousness, I guess, with the unconscious and conscious minds, and the process in which hydrogen is really playing a key role in creating the light that we observe. Is life itself, is it eternal? I can go back 13.8 billion years in my model, but I can't go any further than that. So I can say that's my current limitation. And I would believe, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but only transformed. That, yeah, it would be around a long time. So probably eternal.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Keryn. All right, and next we'll hear from Sharon.
Yes, consciousness, right? Well, there's a distinction of, is consciousness the creator, and how infinite it is, and beyond our ability to really know with our human mind and body. There's possibly this conscious creation that goes on infinitely and eternally, and we are probably just an aspect of that, and we have the ability of being able to raise our consciousness and connect to all consciousness. And that's my perspective on that.
Thank you, Sharon. And now you, Crystal, what is your
Yes.
thought on this?
Well, I feel like everything, consciousness is frequency. And I consider frequency to be energy. It cannot be destroyed. It can only be transferred. So since it can't be destroyed, it has to be eternal. And those are my thoughts on this particular question.
Well, that was a lot of different perspectives, but certainly gave us some deep and rich thoughts that we can entertain. And we're neither here to propose that there is one way to believe and that we're all trying to achieve the same thought, but more so that we're here to engage and stimulate thoughts and allow us to enter into deeper processes within ourselves so that we can really find our connections in a deeper way to this life that we have. On to the next question. Is it possible to retain memories of life experiences? And I'm referring here to past and future lives, if that's where your perspective lies. We'll start now with Bill.
Thank you. Esperanza, great question. I mean, in a word, yes. However, again, looking at quantum entanglement and the weave, if the weave is where it all happens, then we as individual organisms influence that weave through our own intentions and quantum entangle with it. So anything that we think, feel, speak, any intention that we have that is a conscious intention, to use a word, it influences the weave. And therefore, if in that weave are contained all of the things, all of the experiences, all of the memories, all of the information, it's all in there. Now, the other way around, can we access that? Well, I suppose it's possible, and I know people who do. Whether they call it psychic ability or something else, retaining those memories is something that they can tap into and retrieve and then give back to us. I don't want to speculate about whether an individual organism can dissolve and recombine and then have access to those same memories, although it does seem possible, and if we're to believe quantum physics, it seems probable that that could happen. Although, isn't it highly dependent on the individual organism and their particular proclivities and abilities to be able to access the weave and retrieve what's there?
Yeah. I'm sure we're now thinking about more questions, which is wonderful. So next we have, thank you, Bill. Thank you. And on to Liz.
Yes. I mean, I was kind of contemplating that question as it flashed on the board. And, you know, is it possible to retain memories of a life experience? I mean, my perspective is generally that anything is possible. Now, I'm not able to tackle this question from a scientific point of view, but I do recognize that there are perspectives, there are individuals who have had the experience of regression. I haven't myself personally, but I know that persons have gone through that experience. And whether it's just their subjective perspective that somehow they have created in their minds, or whether it's actually an experience that they have truly had, I'm unable to say. But I do believe that there is a lot more to us and to life itself than we have maybe individually experienced. So yeah, I think the possibility exists. We talk about parallel lives that are going on, so it's not necessarily a past life experience, but it could actually be something that is happening now. I refer to things like quantum jumping that persons have experienced. They've been able to shift their perspective from their current life experience into another and to come back to this life experience with new information and new skill sets. And they're unable to say how they could have learned, for example, to paint when in this life they are not skilled. So I do believe in the possibility, yes, in short.
Thanks, Liz. In my life, I have known individuals of that nature and have had those experiences myself. So I love the way you propose that. Thank you, Liz. And next we have Keryn.
Thanks, Esperanza. Yeah, my kind of scientific take on it is that memories really has a fundamental aspect of learning to it, and our biological systems have enabled us to record through light the kind of electromagnetic field within the structure of atoms to record and store this memory, which is then retrievable. And I kind of align that thinking of memory formation and memory recall as part of converting light into atomic structure. And so there's a process where photons can be converted into atoms. And when those unstable atoms kind of release their light again, they're retrieving that information or the memory. So I'm really kind of putting it associated with a mechanism in terms of memory formation, memory recall. And if atoms have been made over 13.8 billion years, when you unlock their light within them and experience that, then yeah, you can have access to a considerable amount of information from the entire universe and its formation. That's kind of my take on it.
Fascinating. Thank you, Keryn. And now Sharon.
Yes. So there's that distinction again, right? Where do memories lie? And in the yogic tradition is the Akashic record. So any voice, any statement, anything you've ever said is recorded somewhere. Where is that memory exactly? In the whole of consciousness? And then we could possibly access it in our consciousness if we could raise our vibration and our frequency from this heavy dimensional world that we live in 3D. We are probably very likely to access memories of many life's experiences. And that's my take.
Thank you. Thanks, Sharon. Yes, the Akashic records. Another thought there. All right. And now we'll hear from Crystal.
Yes. So I feel that memory is stored within the quantum realm. And since there is no past, present, or future, only the now, if we can really understand how to tap into that, the particular frequency that the memory is resonating at, then I do believe that we can gain access.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Crystal. All right, so we now have arrived to our third question for this episode, this first part of our series. The third question is it possible to communicate living and non-living through a universal stream of consciousness? Let's start with Bill.
So for the scientists in the room, we've got to decide what a universal stream of consciousness might be. But if I can define that in terms that I've used already, if it's the weave, where all of the quantum entanglement information takes place, then the answer has to be yes. Whether or not I could communicate with you, Esperanza, through the weave is kind of the more intriguing aspect of that. And we seem to have lots of evidence, and more all the time, that this is possible, not only human to human, but other kinds of organic organisms to humans and back again. Even inorganic substances, like the experiments done with intentions and ice crystals. So it seems to be very possible that this does in fact happen. And I think when it comes right down to it, the quantum physicists, particularly people working on quantum gravity, have the best sort of mechanical explanation for this, arithmetic or mathematical explanation for this. So yeah, definitely I'd go with possible.
Thanks. Thank you, Bill. And let's talk now with Liz.
Mhm. Yes, thank you, Esperanza. Yes, I absolutely do believe that this is possible. I haven't had a personal experience of it, but I do have a member of my family who lost a child. And at some point there was, I guess it was maybe a few months after the passing, and there was a very dear friend of his, the youngster that passed, who obviously had the ability to communicate. And she contacted my brother-in-law and said, hey, Russell wants to be in touch with you, and can we meet? And he did go and speak with her, and she communicated, one would say these days, channeled his thoughts to his dad. And it was a very powerful and changing experience for him. And there are too many of these things that happen all the time, to say nothing of being able, even within this lifetime, to communicate telepathically with others, which is something which happens to me, frequently. So I do believe that there is this stream of consciousness that, according to our own frequency, coming back to the whole idea of energy and what Crystal and Sharon have been talking about, is our resonance. How are we vibrating, and according to our resonance, how can we tap into perhaps the vibrational frequency signature of others? So I definitely believe that this is possible.
Thank you so much, Liz. And it sort of reminded me when you were speaking of the ancient wisdoms and our ancestors that would feel they were communicating, and they were, the way they speak and the way that's been sent down through the generations, but with everything, with all things that we might perceive as organisms that aren't human, but certainly referring to the elements, to the minerals, to the plants, to the different types of life that's out there, stars, clouds, sun, moon, and what they would receive from them. So it's very interesting, because we are talking about energetics here, and we are talking about the we, and I would continue to think more about what are the connections between all these different perspectives. With that, next is Keryn. Thank you.
Thanks, Esperanza. I look at communication on a number of different levels. With biophotons or light released, we can see a person, right? So a human retina inverted, they point inward, and we see our dreams at night with our eyes closed. So when you start to reorientate your understanding of the mind producing the light that you see, then there's a different perspective that can be created. And this kind of, the way a swarm of bees fly, uniform together as one, there's a form of energy that does that also. It's called a Bose-Einstein condensate. And so my kind of scientific framework is that there's this coherent light that's created within us, and that is fundamentally how we are able to see somebody through that system. And yeah, there's several different time frames within that isotope decay system. And when you start looking at the time frames, then you can see that there's these 3 generations of time that are actually going on at the moment, and accessing the other time frames is difficult because of our low energy state. But when you have a high energy state, you start to gain access to these other frequencies, and it's like you're getting prophetic information from future events in your life, because it's part of that atom decay system that's operating within you anyway, but it's just typically not available. But you will see it at nighttime when you're dreaming. That's the origin of light within dreams, part of that atom decay system, which is part of our regenerative process at nighttime. So if you consider the structure of the various neurotransmitters and the various plant medicines used indigenously around the globe, then they give you different perspectives based on what frequencies that they're offering to your mind, the light that they can generate. And they give different windows into different ways of communicating with the plant kingdom. So yeah, there's a number of different ways to communicate, not just verbally, but also, as has already been mentioned, that kind of resonance of frequency and energy. So yeah,
Wonderful.
It's exciting times.
Yeah, really, really wonderful times. All right. Next we go to Sharon.
Thank you, Esperanza. So I'd like to make the distinction with we communicate with living and non-living in parentheses. So the distinction is what is living and non-living. So quantum physics tells us that consciousness lives in the space between the atoms, and the physicist Nassim Haramein says there's even smaller plunks that work in vortexual and photonic ways. And so isn't that all consciousness? And for me, isn't that all living? So is our ability to communicate based on our ability to be in the frequency where the stream of consciousness is? So yes, I believe we can communicate with many consciousnesses based on where our consciousness lies.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you, Sharon. And thank you for that distinction. That I love the way that posed that. And now, Crystal, hear from you.
Yeah, so I would really connect this to the pineal gland and really understanding how to tune up the frequency of our pineal gland to communicate telepathically, as well as to communicate outside of our current 3D reality. So I do believe that it is absolutely possible.
Very well. Okay, so we have come to the end of our questions and hopefully spurred some more thoughts, more questions. Thank you all for being here in the metaverse, embarking on these new pioneering frontiers and all the future holds for us all. Wrapping this up, we would just like to say it is our hope that we have stimulated new ideas and a deeper connection with life as we know it and the possibilities beyond. Let's take that next quantum leap where science, ancient wisdom, technologies, and spirituality converge in the quantum streams of consciousness. Join us and subscribe to our PureEsperanza YouTube channel. Follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. And for more information on becoming a community collaborator, check out our website at pureesperanza.org. And in the links below, you'll see each of our esteemed guests and links for them where to see more of their work. Thank you so much for being here today with us.